right underneath it. So you can
Yeah.
have these.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now I can replace this one with that.
Yeah.
They did not say that. All right, let's keep the kind of stuff.
Yeah, and they still raise.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think they said something
I know. I know. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Right, right.
He's in a relationship. No, he spelled it out now. Now I want I'm sorry. No.
I guess during the film, I don't know. I think when I advertised, I did for a new advertising. Yeah. And the only thing there was I just did, that's a piece of inside. Last one I did, it up front, but that one, I don't know, it was really like back in for a long time.
Hey, Laura, how are you?
Good.
I'm sure. I was,
I don't know either.
No, it's not.
all right.
I knew where that was.
I said I give you the property rights right there. On the schedule. Or look at his recommendations on the second page, she says that the other one.
Thank you. We have letters,
That's a real problem.
What will we do? stuff. She just gave her these letters, so that's what we're now going to be doing. So, Joe, that's the end. This is
Just to kind of share that, myself, okay, so that's right. I'm gonna turn this down and at 6. Interviews at 6. But today, I was gonna like up at the trail. How many people is here? Like this,
She works in the,
There's a stop there. There's a
This is how many.
Florence, Travis, CA,
yeah.
three.
I was going to stop you.
Well, what's on top? Land, Jefferson, Chapman, I don't know if that's here or not.
There's a recommendation on that.
No, but that's your
Florence,
mom,
yes.
yes.
Thank you.
I didn't know.
I just wanted to Good evening. I'm going to start the meeting. Are you ready? I am going to start the meeting. Would you please stand to salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to, well, we have public comment here. We have Mr. Therian. We're doing interviews first, Mr. Therian. So are you here for the regular
No, I just
meeting?
had a question for you, that's all.
Okay. Do you want to ask it now or do you want to wait
That's
till the
up to you.
meeting?
I can ask it now.
Go for
I
it.
am having the darndest time finding the agendas the last 2 months
Oh.
on the website.
Wait 1 minute.
There's instructions on the website now.
And I'm going through them.
Here you
And I
go.
just can't get
Sometimes
it.
it works, I know it's.
Here's a copy of-
Sometimes it doesn't.
Here's a copy of how to find it.
All right, so
Hopefully
I'm
that'll
alone.
help you.
No, yeah, no, absolutely not.
Sometimes it doesn't work.
Okay, thank
It's-
you.
Yes, and it's been,
And you have to do it over again.
yeah, there's no going arrowing back. It just doesn't work. So for you, I'm not alone. I got actually 2 emails this week regarding that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I do want you to know that Mr. Cardillo is not feeling well, so he is excused tonight. And we will begin, we have 5 that we're going to be talking to. So the first one is in regards to the Land Trust Board. Lawrence Chapman, is Mr. Chapman? Hi, Mr. Chapman, how are you? Good. My name is Denise DeFranco, and I am the chair of the council. So you're interested in being on the Land Trust. I guess you've been doing their minutes for them? Is that, you've been acting as secretary?
Since the summer, yes.
Okay, so, do you have anything you'd like to,
Only that I'm enjoying being involved and would like to continue to.
okay? Do you have a letter of recommendation from Linda Tibbetts, so thank you.
From the land.
From the Land Trust. Are there any questions for anybody from the council?
No, my main reason for this was to just see people who they are and have a face and a name to put with it. And you've already been on it, so
Yes.
I just wanted to meet you.
Very good. Hello.
Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you were not appointed previously, you were just
No.
attending the meetings and being a
I've
good
been
sport, keeping
volunteering.
the minutes.
I've been volunteering on the trails and such for years.
Anyone who's willing to keep minutes, I'm all for it, believe me. That's a horrible job.
It's been a learning curve.
I'll certainly appreciate it. Any other questions?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tibbetts, thank you for coming, thank you. And I see many members from the Land Trust, do you have anything to say?
Only that Lon has been a big help to us, he's volunteered on every project we have.
For
One of the few
years.
volunteers that we have.
He's already like a member.
Well, that's what we need, so we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
More than happy.
We'll be making appointments later. Next, we have Mr. Dexter for EMA Director.
I spoke to Mike, he actually sent me a message saying that he wouldn't be able to attend, he works at EB and he didn't have enough notice. I met with him, I've known Mike for years. I can read his letter if you
Yeah.
like. Okay. Please accept this contact as a letter of intent for the position of EMA Director. I have been a resident of Foster and active member of the Moosup Valley Fire Department since 1999 with a 6-year membership as a teenager in the 1980s. During this time, I have built relationships with members of multiple departments and developed a strong understanding of the emergency systems in the state. I understand the time commitment that the position requires, and I am fully available to take on the task. As well as being a captain of the fire department, I have received my Rhode Island Fire Academy, Fire 1 and Fire 2 credentials, hazardous materials training, and I am an emergency medical technician at the cardiac level. I am a state certified instructor coordinator for EMS courses in Rhode Island and instructor for ice rescue awareness operations and technicians, and an American Heart Association instructor. I believe that I will be an asset to the town of Foster as the EMA Director and sincerely ask that I be considered for the position. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I've known Mike and I've worked with Mike for the past 21 years in EMS. He worked with us during, on all the rescue calls. But during Tropical Storm Irene, Hurricane Sandy, the blizzard, all of that, he was instrumental in the department in coordinating the members of Moosup Valley and what they would be doing. He's excellent at direction. He has a great knowledge of all of the things that EMA encompasses. He works with all of our departments, the fire departments and the ambulance corps. They all know him. They all have a good working relationship with him. I met with him and a woman from the Department of Health last night on some things that are coming up for our meds pods. Sharon was unable to make it, but Sharon also endorses Mike as an EMA Director.
Does anyone else? I don't know Mr. Dexter, I've met him, but I don't know him, so I really can't.
I know him so well, so.
Do you have?
I believe he works hard. I think he would give it his best and do a good job for the town.
Is there anybody here to speak on Mr. Dexter's? Yes. I'm glad
Excellent
to
choice, excellent choice. He's
Yes.
always there. He knows the job. You will not go wrong.
Thank you. Mr. Stone?
Good.
Okay, thank you.
If I could, for a moment, please, you can, like, if there's people here that want to leave it just for these appointments, as they come up, you can do a motion and bring them up to the beginning so that they don't have to stay for the whole meeting just to get appointed to find out what they're gonna do. It's up to you guys, but if they wanna, this is easier for them, if they would like to leave, you, as you take them, you can either appoint them or not appoint them, and they can leave if they feel like leaving. So you can, if you want, you can
What's the
entertain a
pleasure?
motion to move them up, and then if they wanna go home, they don't have to sit through a whole meeting to find out if they're gonna be appointed or not.
What's the pleasure?
I mean, you don't have to, I'm just saying, that's a suggestion.
So we could look at,
I think we should go by the agenda.
okay. Anyone else
When we
from the
make a
council?
motion to that effect?
No, you don't have to.
You don't have to.
I'm
You
just
wanna
saying you
make
can
a
make a
change.
motion to move something up if they wanted to leave.
I was going to suggest that actually if we can't start the public hearing until 7, because it was advertised for 7. So if we were done with these interviews, I was actually going to make a motion to move something up.
Move something forward.
Right, just so we don't sit here for half an hour or so.
Mhm.
I agree.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on, we do have 3 applicants, if you will, for the planning board. We do have a vacancy on the planning board. There is Ms. Ryder, you're first. Would someone like to read Ms. Ryder's letter?
Dear Foster Town Council, I would like to be considered for the vacant position on the planning board. I have lived in Foster for 62 years and have been actively involved in town government since 2002. I served 6 years on the Foster Town Council and 6 years on the Tax Board of Review. I acted as a council liaison to the planning board for 2 years and served on the last charter review committee. I currently serve on the board of directors of Foster Senior Housing Hemlock Village and the Foster Preservation Society. I have long believed that planning is key to Foster's future and survival, and that the planning board is the most important board in our town. I believe my knowledge of the town, its history, and governmental procedures would be an asset should I be appointed to the board. I never base decisions on hearsay or preconceived beliefs. My mantra has always been, do your own homework and get the facts. I believe in the future of Foster and that the challenges can be overcome if we work together and check egos and biases at the door. The current divide on the planning board serves no one. It diverts time and energy that would be better spent focusing on the big picture, which is what's good for the town and its residents. I have worked with many of the current board members and I feel I could help move the business of the town forward. Thank you for your consideration, Vanessa Ryder.
As we're reading this, I'm just thinking, what is the pleasure of the council? We have 3 applicants, we have 1 position. Do you want to ask each applicant any questions, or do you want to just take them one at a time, or do you want to do them en masse?
We actually have
Doesn't matter.
2 openings.
We have, that's correct, we have Helen Hartley's position, she did ask
Right,
for a
3
reappointment.
openings.
Yes, I stand corrected, thank you, we
I
were
was
looking at
thinking that was on my number, so.
We do have one from Mr. Allen, and he says, Dear Susan, it's addressed to Sue Dillon. Please inform the town council that I am applying for an opening on the planning board. Thank you sincerely, Paul Allen. And then we have another one from Lisa M. Johnston. If someone would like, I read Mr. Allen's because it was brief. If someone would like to read Ms. Johnston's.
I'll read it. Dear Ms. Dillon, I would like to be considered for a position on the planning board for the town. I have an over 13 years experience as a licensed real estate agent and have interacted with the planning board both personally and professionally over the years. I believe I have the ability to work with the members of the board to help serve the needs of the property owners of Foster. Please feel free to contact me via email, via mail, or via cell phone with any questions. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Sincerely, Lisa M. Johnston.
So what is the pleasure of the council? Do you have any questions for any of the applicants?
Well, I know all 3, I don't think I have any questions that I don't already know the answers to. I'm pretty confident about that. I would ask if they had anything to say.
How is the town of Foster going to generate new income?
Who are you
That's to all
asking?
3 of you.
Well,
If you
you know,
first, Lynn.
I think, number one, planning. It's not gonna be an easy fix, it's not gonna happen tomorrow. But this town historically is reactive, not proactive. We should decide what we want, where we want it, and then go after it. You have to reach out and to the rest of the state. You can't just sit in Foster and hope they're going to come to you. We need to work with other communities. I know there's, I think it's a Northwestern Chamber of Commerce, something like that. There is certainly, at the state level, they have their Economic Development Commission. We should have fingers in those pies, and we should see what is coming up and also sell ourselves. I mean, that is, you know, again, it's not gonna happen overnight. And I do think that we still have to be, we don't have to sell our souls. I don't think that we have to have a big factory come in. I don't think that we have to do anything that will negatively impact a good portion of the town. I don't think that these little hit or miss solar arrays, since they don't generate any income, I mean, for the town, or not very much, they do impact the residents quite a bit. And I think that is something that the planning board really has to check out. There was a big article in the paper about Exeter. They've got a 60-day moratorium because their 2-day-a-week planner just can't keep up with all of the applications. Also, they're dealing with a lot of new state law. How does it dovetail into what they have? How do they have to improve it? And they just decided we have to call a halt, get our ducks in a row, decide what we want, and go forward. I know Gloucester did that, and some of the things that they came up with I thought were, very good. But we can't just let things happen to the town. That's not going to serve anyone.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, you're next, the same question, I believe.
Well, I think as far as generating money, just simply changing the zoning and accommodating business is not going to solve the problems of the town. Preserving quality of life and character of community are equally important. So just flailing in a sense and letting these things in, there's already a lot of speculation from the outside. Carpetbaggers are coming in. That's at 9 Mount Hajia Road, and now Salamone on Snagwood Road. It's not really in the interest of the town, again, because these alternative energy sources don't generate income for the town. They only generate income for the property owner and for that business. So in the long run, there's a net loss for the town. We don't really gain anything. In the long run, we have to protect the character of community, a rural community, and quality of life here to really thrive and go forward. I think another thing to keep in mind is we have to limit the expense of the police department and especially the schools. I've suggested to Denise several years ago, just in a conversation, that we have a mixed constabulary system for the police department. There's a way of us stopping that expense or controlling that expense, and with the schools, there's got to be a way in this tiny little state of sharing the overhead for the schools with the region or with the state, because it's crushing us and it's forcing us into sort of a desperate situation, which is why these sort of more rapid changes are coming about now.
Thank you. Ms. Johnston.
Well, I think taking a more broad approach and getting the whole town involved in what is actually happening in the town. I know a lot of people watch the videos, and that's awesome. If we had more involvement for each meeting, I know a lot of things go to the wayside because people aren't there to vote and pertinent votes and things like that. But I think getting the town involved, maybe getting like a business association more active, and getting potentially financial people, legal people to advise at a cheap or free rate to businesses in town or that would like to come into town would be something that we could use the town people that are here. There's plenty of lawyers and accountants in town that maybe could volunteer services, discounted services that could help people that are interested in starting businesses. I think maybe a reduction of speed on Route 6 throughout town would help. I've talked to a lot of people that try to pull in and out of places on Route 6 and you're taking your life in your hand. And I've actually talked to a couple of people that said, we're not even interested because I tried to pull out and I wouldn't even expect my customers to try to pull out onto Route 6 at certain times of the day. Different things like that. I think having an active participation, maybe once a month with the newspaper, the Foster Home Journal, keeping the businesses, getting maybe a page that generates all the businesses that are in town, some type of proactive reminder that, hey, we're here, we're open for business, and don't forget about us. Just overall looking at what we have to offer, what our negatives are, no sewer, we're out in the woods, we're not really a very busy place. The only place is really Route 6 that gets a lot of high volume. Take the negatives and turn them into positives. There's different industries that can come to this town that if we advertise with the use of realtors in the area that have properties listed, have it on that business site that people can say, oh look, this is available in Foster. This would be good for this, this, and this. Get in coordination with the zoning and maybe revamping the zoning to enable different things and on more of a larger portion of the property that parcels may be designated right now for business, but only a certain portion of it are designated for business, and they're kind of limiting their use because of the zoning size. That's about it. I've got tons of stuff rattling around in my head, but.
Thank you. Is there any other question from council? Okay, anyone from, I see people from the planning board here. Do you have any questions that you would like to put forward? Okay, thank you. Do you have anything further you would like to say, Ms. Ryder?
You know, just that, as far as Route 6 goes, I was also on the Route 6 rezoning committee. And after looking at it, when we came up with the general business mixed use, which is really not that limiting, it's, you may have to jump through some more hoops, but you can certainly always get a variance. But one of the things we came up with, because it is dangerous to get on and off Route 6, was we designated or we identified certain areas that you could, quote, have a business node. Property, a big enough piece of property where you put one entrance, and then perhaps have some kind of a visual buffer, I don't know, or make it look nice, and then have several businesses in there, so that you don't have every business, you know, exiting and entering on Route 6 all the time. The other thing is that we have to capitalize, instead of always whining about what we don't have, we have to capitalize on what we do have. We have a lot of area that could be used for outdoor recreation. Now, is that going to bring in a lot of money? Perhaps not. But it will, number one, develop goodwill with the community. But you also will get more people, rather than just passing through all the time, stopping and maybe having to get a bite to eat, or you've got to do this, or you've got to do that, and realize that Foster's here. So many times, you know, I taught in Cranston for many years, and still, most of my friends, although they've been out to my house, Foster's the other end of the earth. That's it. What's in Foster? There's nothing in Foster. There is a lot in Foster. We just have to capitalize on it.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, do you have any final words?
Not really.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Johnston, do you have anything?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion to move forward with.
Okay, I'll make a motion to move the item boards and committee appointments up on the agenda before public comment.
Before public comment, we had one public comment, and that.
Oh, was it, we did, but, oh, all right,
Yeah,
that's right.
Mr. Therian had
I'm
his-
sorry, all right. then
We've
af-
answered that, so.
All right, after
Good luck.
public comment, that's right.
Second.
Discussion? So the motion is to move the appointments for boards and committee appointments forward to, at this point in time.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Before us, you have, Ms. Dillon has given us a nice chart that has the letters of resignation, current positions that are open, letters of intent before you. So, looking at that, starting with the planning board, we have Mr. Allen, Ms. Ryder, and Ms. Johnston that have applied. Helen Hardy is currently on the board and asked to be reappointed. So, what is the pleasure? We do have two positions. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Lynn Ryder to the planning board.
Is there a second?
I can't speak to it because it's not a motion now, right?
So,
Second for discussion.
is there a,
Can somebody second it for discussion?
All right, I'll second.
Thank you. I'd like to appoint Lynn because Lynn has lived here her whole life. She does do her homework and due diligence. She comes to it with a lot of knowledge of the town, a lot of past experience, as we read from her letter. I believe she'd be a good fit with some of the people there. I think that it would be a nice balance. I think it needs a little more stabilization. I think she'd give it, I think she'd bring a lot to the table. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Further? Any other motions?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Lisa Johnston to the planning board.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Congratulations, Ms. Johnston.
Thank
There is a second position.
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Helen Hardy to the planning board.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And you'll send a letter to Ms. Hardy, thank you. Moving on. Zoning board. For the zoning board, we have two positions, they're both alternates positions. They are Mr.
Garino.
Yeah, Mr. Garino and
Brad Smith.
Brad Smith. I'm probably missing his name there.
They're both serving as alternates
Right
now
this time.
as well, so they're just looking for reappointment
Right.
as alternates.
Right, I was just looking, I didn't see Mr., oh, I see him right there. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to reappoint Brad Smith and Nick Carino.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Recreation Committee. We have the director position, Mr. Palucci
Yep, that's a.
Pulowski. Mr. Pulowski has resigned, did not put in a letter.
That's in non-standard officials above the boards and committees.
Okay, well,
The directors is.
I'm looking down here, so there is none for recreation. right?
There's one, Nick Carino.
Nick Carino.
I think he's
Oh,
the
thank
only
you,
one.
thank you. So,
Make a motion we appoint Nick Carino to the Recreation Committee.
is there a second discussion? I understand, because we have someone from the Recreation Committee that is asking to be director. There's that opening now, so now Nick has applied. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I think this, besides that, is it down? Sharon.
Oh, yes, Ryan.
No, really.
Oh.
No, Mr. Lewis resigned too.
Tammy Steinkamp.
Tammy Steinkamp
Is leaving the vacancy.
she'd like to be the recreation director. So we have her position and Mr. Lewis resigned, so there's a second position.
So that's one that we'll need to advertise for.
Mhm.
That's the future agenda.
For recreation. Moving on. Land trust. We had, for the land trust, there were 3 openings. And we have Myra Mercer that would like to be reappointed. We have Tom Boyden that would like to be reappointed. And we had Mr. Chapman,
Sorry.
we had Mr. Chapman who submitted his letter today. Am I correct? Do I have all of them?
Is that what we got?
Are those Are they all full members?
No,
They were-
Myra and Tom are both asking for reappointment.
That's 5-year term.
Right, and Rita Chapman, 3-year.
Oh, 3 years.
Yes. So, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we reappoint Myra Mercer and Tom Boyden.
Discussion?
Oh, I'll second.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Chapman?
I'll make a motion to appoint Lawrence Chapman to the Land Trust.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, thank you. Moving on, Conservation Commission. We have three,
Pay raise.
we have 3 positions. And, let's see, David Rathbun is asking for reappointment. Is that correct? Is that the one?
Right, yeah.
Mr. Vinagro has resigned. So we have David Rathbun for Conservation.
I'll make a motion to appoint David Rathbun to the Conservation Commission.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? So we still have 2 openings for
Right,
the
that's
Conservation Commission. Okay. And then last is the Juvenile Hearing Board. We have 1 person who submitted a letter, and that was Mary Jo Cretion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Mary Jo Cretion to the Juvenile Hearing Board.
Second.
Discussion? I know
I think
that,
should be excellent.
yeah, I know David Sweet, who was the chair, did speak to her and felt that she would be a great fit, so. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thank you. Now we can go back to the original agenda, which is the minutes for December 6th.
I make a motion we accept the minutes from December 6th.
Second.
One second, please. I know. All discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to payroll warrant number 23.
I make a motion we pay payroll warrant number 23 in the amount of $35,528.16.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to general warrant number 9.
I make a motion we pay general warrant number 9 in the amount of $35,975.46.
Second.
Discussion?
I
Okay.
have a question, but it's not about that.
Okay.
But it's about these, but not that particular.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
Is it possible at some time that, I don't know if we have to discuss it, or now's the time to discuss it, that these are pretty straightforward every time we meet, that we have a consent for approving these rather than go through these?
Mrs. Dillon had mentioned that to me too. I was going to speak to the solicitor after.
Yeah,
Okay, so, all right,
we can, yeah, we do that much range.
Okay.
okay, thank you.
So moving on to old business, we have the plumbing inspector. Mr. Lowe did submit a letter at the last meeting. We did not have a letter from Mr. Lowe to be the plumbing inspector. Is there a motion?
I make a motion we appoint Mr. Lowe as our plumbing inspector.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You can now move up, if you want to move up either the monthly reports or the new business, you can take a motion, move that above the public hearing,
Okay,
Good, 20 minutes.
so
right.
whatever you get through.
What's the pleasure of the council?
I'll make a motion to move the monthly reports for October and November to this point on the agenda.
And also July.
So
Yes.
we'll do them all at one?
Yes.
Oh, those are quarterly, okay, we can do them all.
Yeah.
Monthly, and that'll be for the monthly and quarterly reports.
Monthlies are September and October,
Right.
not October, November.
The monthly?
Yeah, the monthlies, it's listed as October,
Oh, on
November,
here it's wrong.
September.
Okay, the quarterly reports are July.
Okay.
Okay.
I do want to note that there is none for the monthly reports for the finance department, but Kelly did provide us with the year-to-date paperwork, so we have that. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Yes, that was the monthly report and the quarterly report. So now we have, under new business, adoption of rules of order. We had discussed at the transition meeting, the Robert's rules versus the Democratic rules of order. What is the pleasure of the council?
I would like to make a motion that we use the Democratic rules of order.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? I believe Mr. Cardillo does not have a copy of that. Can we purchase one of him, please? And do you have a copy, Ms. Rogers? Mrs. Rogers, do you have a copy of
Yes.
this Democratic report?
Yes.
Next, we have our heating bill, our heating oil bid. I know.
All right, we're gonna find it right now.
I know.
Okay.
So we have the heating oil bid. There was one bid from Ramboll and Sprague. It was opened on the December 10th. It is recommended to accept Mr. Ramboll's bid. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept Ramon Sprague's bid for heating oil for bidding
Yes, please.
$2.12 a gallon.
Guaranteed. Guaranteed. And it's seconds. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So then we have the appointment of non-standard officials.
We didn't have all the names.
We did not have all the names. I can tell you who has been in the past and who agreed to continue. So in the past, for the Quarter of Wood, it's been Bob Thurber. He has asked to be reappointed.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Bob Thurber as the Quarter of Wood.
Second.
Discussion? I will also skip down tree warden. Mr. Thurber is a arborist and is willing to be our tree warden. Is there?
I'll make a motion to appoint Bob Thurber as tree warden.
Is there a second?
All right, wait a minute. So you didn't, so let's.
I jumped down
Right,
because
that's okay, do you want to combine them as one
Right.
motion?
Yes.
Yep, okay.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Fence viewer currently is Mr. Tom D'Agostino. He is willing to continue. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we appoint Tom D'Agostino as fence viewer.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Recreation Director, As I noted before, Mr. Pulowski has retired from the position. Tammy Steinkamp is interested. Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we appoint Tammy Steinkamp as the recreation director.
Second.
Discussion?
I'll just say Tammy's done a great job on recreation. She's been very involved with planning a lot of the events. She does a great job. I think
She
she'll
really
be a good
does.
director.
She really does do a nice job. Moving on to keeper of the keys. Oh, I didn't vote, I'm sorry.
Need a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a second. Yep. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Keeper of the keys is currently Aiden Restivo. He is still interested in being the keeper of the keys. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Aiden Restivo as keeper of the keys.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to town historian. Currently, it is Mr. Stanley Hopkins.
I make a motion that we reappoint Stanley Hopkins to town historian.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to civil preparedness, which is EMA, and I found that back in 2015, we did change the title from civil preparedness to EMA. August 25th, 2015, we did that, when we changed the job description. So it's a little easier. We had one applicant, Mike Dexter.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mike Dexter as emergency management director.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have constables. With constables, it's an automatic who is, it's the members of the town council members. It is each of the fire chiefs. So you have a list on your paper of who they are.
You want a motion for those?
Yes, please.
I will make a motion to appoint the following individuals as constables for the town of Gloucester. Christy Stone, Denise DeFranco, Cheryl Hawes, Peggy Rogers, Joe Cardillo, Paul Caniff, Gordon Brayton, and Aaron Marsland.
Second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Liaison.
Liam was too early.
I know.
Yeah, this is,
And I thought it was gonna be all the Okay, so next we have the liaisons to various boards and commissions. We have them listed there.
I don't have that. That
Oh, and,
We don't have the
yeah,
list here.
I updated it. I added it.
Oh. Okay.
it's not here. So,
it's up, no, up there.
Yeah, I just had to add it.
I have, I printed one out, thank you. Okay, so we have listed the various boards and committees. There is the Building and Zoning, DPW, Finance Department, Human Services, Planning Department, Police, Tax Assessor, and School Committee. Previously, on Building and Zoning, it had been Mr. Dillon. I don't know if anybody is interested in that. I had thought Mr. Cardillo might be good for that because he had worked with Rhett in the past. So I think they have that rapport. I don't know if there's anybody that would be interested in being Building and Zoning. I did text Mr.
This is what he preferred.
Yeah, he prefers,
DPW, second was, police department, and third would be finance and planning.
there are several that we would have more than one liaison, so that is correct. Mr. Cardillo did mention that he wanted to be, he had a list of who he was interested in, what positions he was interested in.
Should, town hall be on there as well as finance?
Town
Did you
hall
have
is
that before?
Mrs. Dillon.
As a liaison?
Well, she's, yeah, I think she's just an automatic.
Oh, you're just the automatic, okay, I thought it had been there before. Could we, add one, I don't know, under here, can we add one or have to put it on the next agenda? I just, for EMA, while this is a transition, I was kind of interested in that. Hold on, let me do it.
And with the EMA, for the EMA, the new job description states that they're under the direction of the town council president or a designee, normally the police chief. So I don't know if that works as, that was part of that job description that we had. So I don't know if that works as liaison. I just wanted to throw that out, because that's how it had been in the past. Okay. Is there a,
I mean, I'll do it, but I don't want
you'll do what?
the building and zone.
Okay. You want to do building and zoning?
And I'd like to do DPW.
Okay. Do we have a motion from Mr. Stone to be building and zoning and DPW liaison?
I'll make a motion that Mr. Stone be liaison to DPW and building and zoning.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Finance Department. In the past, it had been Mr. Stone.
I went to be the liaison for finance. Cheryl, are there any, just while we're discussing all of these, were there anything? that
Well,
you
I
had?
was with the police department and I'd like to probably stay there. I didn't go for planning or zoning because I cannot attend their meetings.
Right.
And I don't think that's what we had in mind. So I'm still in touch with the police chief and saw him today, as a matter of fact. So I'd like to continue that.
Is there a motion for Ms. Hoyt to continue as police department liaison?
I make a motion that Cheryl be the police department liaison.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I was, we were up on C for finance.
Right,
This one
finance.
that- Yeah,
Is there a motion for Ms. Rogers to be finance
I
liaison?
make a motion we make Heidi the liaison for the finance department.
Okay, I do want it to be noted that Mr. Cardillo did request finance as a second choice. So, oh, no, it was his
No,
third
his
choice,
third
tied
choice.
with
planning.
with planning. So, okay, finance department. Heidi, is there there was a second? Cheryl,
Yes.
and all in favor? Aye. Opposed? What was Mr. Cardillo's second choice?
Please.
Police, okay.
And we've got Cheryl. for
And we have
finance.
Cheryl with police. That's fine. And he was tied for, he had, third place was tied with
Finance and planning.
finance and planning. So would we have a motion to have Mr. Cardillo be planning?
I will make a motion to appoint Mr. Cardillo to planning board.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have human services. I have been in the past along with the planning department. I would like to continue as human services.
I'll make a motion that Denise DeFranco serve as the liaison to human services.
Second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Tax assessor.
I guess we're all picking a couple, so I guess, so, I'd be, unless you want it, Cheryl.
Well, I think you might be better with the fire departments than maybe, I don't know.
Well,
We don't have the
that's
fire
fair.
departments listed.
If you look,
Well, I wanted to do it,
you don't have that many.
if that's something that we can add later,
Because
because I don't know if with the EMA, if you're serving a good direction.
I think the engineering board and the liaison,
Mhm.
they decide who their liaison, I always assumed that that's what was with the fire departments, I don't know.
Hmm.
Because we haven't had, this came from what we've had in the past.
Right.
This list.
You appoint the engineering board,
We appoint the
then you can
engineering.
appoint the.
Well, the engineering board has historically been all the chiefs
Right.
of.
Right, but you guys appoint, yeah, technically, but I mean, you would have you have like a
Liaison
public
to-
member of that?
Gordon was there.
Yeah, there's always been a liaison from the council to the engineering board.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize
The
that, I've always
the
had.
engineering board doesn't appoint their liaison from the council, the council appoints a liaison to the
What
engineering.
I was saying is that the engineering board has a liaison to the council. You're saying that there's also one in the reverse?
It has been in the past, yes.
Okay, we didn't have that listed the last time.
You can add that for next
You
year.
can add that, okay. I was just concerned with the transition with, you know, a new EMA director, even though he knows a lot,
Mhm.
if there was a time that
Okay,
he
so
needed
the
assistance.
engineering board,
Just with dealing with National Grid or something, if he needed assistance, if I was the liaison, I could help him out with that.
for the engineering board or for the EMA?
Yeah.
Okay, so for the next meeting, we want EMA liaison. Okay. Did we also say
And
that we wanted
engineering.
engineering?
Yeah.
Probably the same person.
Okay. That being said, tax assessor. And
Cheryl, you wanted that?
I will take whatever is left over.
Okay. I'll make a motion to appoint Cheryl Hawes as the liaison to tax assessor.
is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? School committee.
That was a joke.
It was his,
That's a great idea.
that was his least
I was-
favorite.
I was on it.
I know you were. It was his least.
I did it.
I have one. I'm willing to do the school committee.
I'll make a motion to appoint the liaison to the school committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we're still going. Okay. We'll just take a few minutes then, if that's.
Susan, did you do the engineering report?
We did not, because it's not on our agenda, so we said it was a future, it's a future agenda, as far as EMA and engineering. A question? Yes, we did. We did make one motion.
It's in just one motion.
I'm sorry, yes.
Are you going to swear in the people appointed today?
We could do that tonight. Did you have that?
I do.
We do have that, and, Ms. Hardy, you came in, congratulations, you are back on the planning board. So if the following people are here, if you would stand, Ms. Dillon will swear you in. Helen Hardy, Lisa Johnston, Nick, I can't pronounce Nick's last name, Garino, Brad Smith, Lawrence Chapman, Myra Mercier, Tom Boyden, David, what was David's last name?
Rathman.
David Rathbun, and Mary Jo Creason. Mary Jo could not make it.
Speak up, Sue.
And that you will be true and faithful unto the state and support the state laws and constitution thereof and the Constitution of the United States. And that you will be well and truly executed the position of
Land trust.
which you have been appointed, or until another be engaged in your place, or until you are legally discharged therefrom. So help you God. Congratulations.
Thank you all so much.
So,
There's another one.
There's another one.
Yes. So you, Nick. Solemnly swear that you will be true and faithful to the town, and foster and support the town charter, and that you will be true and faithful to the state and support the laws and constitution of the Constitution of the United States, and that you will well and truly execute the position of recreation director, which you have been appointed, or until another be engaged in your place, or until you will legally discharged therefrom, so help you God.
Perfect timing, Nick. Thank you.
Right. No.
So, we're actually,
So at this point, we are going to move to the public hearing for for the business license renewals, Forster Auto Parts, secondhand license, and Old Volk's House, secondhand license. Do we need to do each one, open the public hearing for each one separately? For each thing. So I'm going to open the public hearing for the business license renewals first. So to do this, I open up to the public first, and they can make their comments, and then we go for the motions.
What licenses do you have that you're gonna do?
We have our second-hand license renewal, victual license renewals, gun shop license renewals, holiday sales renewals, and campground license renewals, and private investigators.
Why don't you do one at a time, like one group, if you want to say like campgrounds, and if someone has, after you have a motion on to approve, then you can open it up to public discussion.
Okay.
If there's no discussion about those groups, just,
Okay,
do what you want to do, and if there's a public discussion or a public comment on one, then they can take that one, you know what I'm saying?
yes.
So if you have four in one group and someone has an issue with one, they talk about the one.
Okay,
If not, you move the meeting along quicker.
right. So we're going to start then with the second-hand license.
Yeah, so there would be a motion on to approve whatever you want to do, if someone wants to approve whatever secondhand licenses, if you're gonna do these right here, these 8.
yeah.
And then once the motion is a second, then you can ask for any public comment from the audience, if they have any comment on any of those 8. If they don't, then you can approve. If they do, you can inquire as to what the comment is, like what the issue is, whatever,
And then you close the public hearing for that
Yeah,
group.
exactly. You go on.
After you make a motion and vote on it?
Right, so what you would do, you would have a motion and a second, you'd open it up to the public, because it is a public hearing. If there are no questions or comments or concerns about that group, you close the public comment, you vote, you move on to the next group. I think that's the most easiest way to do it, because otherwise, everyone's gonna be confused because there's too many businesses on here.
Can I
So-
make one announcement before
Sure.
we begin?
Yeah,
Wright's Auto is not on the license renewal because they do not have a license at this time. So they are not on the license renewal. Okay, so if anybody was here for that portion, you will not hear Wright's Auto. Moving on, so we have our secondhand license. Who would like to do those motions? Usually it's Mr. Rogers, and he's not here.
I will make a motion to approve the following second-hand licenses upon receipt of annual
You need to
licensing.
read it up right exactly the way it says here, so that the building official, tax collector, all of that is.
That's what I'm reading.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Oh, where was I? I'll start over.
Thanks.
I make a motion to approve the following second-hand licenses upon receipt of annual licensing and advertising fees and approvals from the building official, tax collector, and police chief where applicable. From December 31st, 2018 to December 31st, 2019, second-hand license renewals as follows. Russell Smith, DBA, Chelsea's Trading Post, 151 Danielson Pike. Newell Wright II, DBA, Hemlock Brook Auto Sales and Service, 37A Mill Road. MCC Inc., DBA, Mike's Auto Repair, 45 Anthony Road. Paul Hayhurst, DBA, GCC Auto Sales LLC, 175 Danielson Pike. Keith Lafazia, DBA, Rhodey Outdoors, 2 Goldmine Road. Certified Automotive Inc., DBA, Steve's Gun Shop, 66 Central Pike. Adam David Daco, DBA, Route 6 Outpost, 52 Danielson Pike. Danny's Auction Barn LLC, DBA, Danny's Auction Barn, 150B Danielson Pike.
Second.
Discussion. I'll open it to the public. Ms.
I just have a question, as far as Danny's auction barn, is that still in business?
They, I believe they renewed their license to have that option. I know it's for sale, but I think they just want to
That's what I was
keep their
wondering too,
options.
if they were just gonna keep it going.
They're just keeping their options open, I believe. I was curious about that too, I do know it's for sale. Yes,
Yeah, you mentioned Hemlock Auto Sales.
Hemlock Auto Sale, Hemlock Brook Auto Sales and Service.
Now, when you grant these licenses, are the businesses supposed to be in operation, or they can just hang on to it?
They can hang on to it.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it had changed, the rules had changed. As you know, we ran into problems there with all the cars being stored that weren't
Mhm.
part of the sales.
Right.
You know, it has been cleaned up somewhat, but it still needs a little more cleaning. But, all right, so that is Newell's license right there.
It's Newell Wright, DBA, Hemlock Brook Auto Sales and Service.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
yep.
Was Foster Auto Sales included in that motion, is that coming up?
Foster Auto Sales is a separate second-hand
Thank you, thank you.
Foster Auto, right?
Yes.
Mhm. They were not listed under this second-hand because this is a new,
Correct.
They were
So
applying for a
That's
new-
coming up, thank you.
yes. Any further discussion from the audience? Anything from the council? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Moving on to the victualling, thank you, license renewals.
I will make a motion to approve the following victualling licenses upon receipt of annual licensing fee and approvals from the building official, tax collector, and police chief where applicable. Riker Energy Corp., DBA, Riker Energy, Corner Store, 189 Hartford Pike. Drake Petroleum, DBA, Foster Extra Mart, 188 Danielson Pike.
Second.
I should probably say that the license renewal is from December 31st, 2018 to December 31st, 2019.
Thank you. I'll open it to the public.
I just have one other question. Do they, the ones usually there would be a chart, which ones had been signed off by the fire?
We have that.
You have that?
Yes.
Okay, so you're only reading the ones that are signed off?
Nope, it's stated in the motion that as long as they have the approvals of the building official, tax collector, and police chief. So it's within the motion. If they do not have that, then they do not get it. Okay. But that's a question that's asked each time, and it is confusing, because, but it is, if they have not paid their taxes, if the police chief or if the building official finds anything, then they don't get it. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to gun shop license renewals.
I will make a motion to approve the following gun shop licenses upon receipt of annual licensing fee and approvals from the building official, tax collector, and police chief, where applicable, for the period December 31st, 2018 through December 31st, 2019. Lawrence Costamello, DBA Allery Farm, 7 Rickard Road. Keith LaFazia, DBA Brody Outdoors, 2 Goldmine Road. Adam David Dacco, DBA Route 6 Outpost, 52 Danielson Pike. Certified Automotive Inc., DBA Steve's Gun Shop, 66 Central Pike. Leon DeFranco, DBA LJD Gun and Supplies, 9 King Road.
Is there a second?
Second.
I just want to note that Leon DeFranco is not related to me. He spells his name D-E-I-N-D-I. There is no relationship. Any discussion from anyone out in the audience? Hearing none from the council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to the holiday sales license renewals.
I'll make a motion to approve the following holiday sales licenses upon receipt of an annual licensing fee and approvals from the building official, tax collector, and police chief where applicable. For the period December 31st, 2018 to December 31st, 2019. Reichert Energy Corp., DBA Reichert Energy Corner Store, 189 Hartford Pike. Adam David Dacco, DBA Route 6 Outpost, 52 Danielson Pike. Star Petro Inc., DBA Foster Quick Stop, 173 Danielson Pike. Benito Lambert, DBA Lady Love Llama, 82 Cucumber Hill Road. Drake Petroleum, DBA Foster Extramont, 186 Danielson Pike. Russell Smith, DBA Chelsea's Trading Post, 151 Danielson Pike. Tycomac Enterprises LLC, DBA Foster Golf and Country Club, Inc., 67 Johnson Road.
Second.
I'll open it to the audience. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to the campground license renewals.
I will make a motion to approve the following campground licenses upon receipt of annual licensing fee and approvals from the building official, tax collector, and police chief for the period December 31st, 2018 through December 31st, 2019. Virginia Bassett, DBA Ginny B Campground, 7 Harrington Road. Legacy Land Preservation LLC, DBA Dyer Woods Campground, 114 Johnson Road.
Second.
I'll open it to the public. Council, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to private investigator's license.
I'll make a motion to approve the following private investigator license upon receipt of annual licensing fee and approvals from police chief, building official, and tax collector, where applicable, for the period December 31st, 2018 to December 31st, 2019. Alan Pittman, DBA Alan Pittman Investigations, 117 Central Pike.
Second.
I'll open it to the public. Council, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that closes our business license renewals. I will now open for the Foster Auto Parts. We have an application for a second-hand license. Open it to, is the applicant here, Foster Auto?
The applicant's here.
Okay. Is that Mr. Wilbur?
It's Mr. Wilbur.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Wilbur.
Hi.
So you are looking for secondhand sales at Foster Auto on 40 Mill Road?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of Mr. Wilbur's application? Is there anyone here to speak against Mr. Wilbur's application? Yes, could you please stand, state your name and address?
I'm Kim Gallagher. I live at 51 Mill Road, directly across the street. My driveway is right there where their second entrance is. I have real concerns, you can imagine, being where I'm at, and I understand Foster Auto is not, you know, the new junkyard down the street. I can't have that mess across from my house. What's, you know, you can understand, even with the town council, you folks getting involved to clean them up, the improvements are nothing that would make my house sellable in the future. The traffic, the people who work there, again, and I'm not, sorry, I don't know you, I'm not, this is not, I need to make sure, it's not the business itself. Joe Osmansky, who ran it for years, he and I were good friends. I was good friends with his wife, I went to his home, our kids played together. It's not the business. The way he ran it was fantastic. The business off the road, he's got a right to a business. But something has to happen, and it cannot turn into what's down the street. It can't just run wild, you know, until it's too late, and that's my concern.
That's the concern,
Yes,
building and zoning
I saw that.
official
The building
also
and zoning
noted that on the
official.
application.
Are there stipulations that we can put in?
Yes, we can put in stipulations. Is there, yes, could you please, could you stand, state your name and address?
Okay, my name is Jacqueline Bowen, my address is 49 Mill Road, and I also am directly across the street from Foster Auto Parts. So basically, I know that we purchased a property across the street from a junkyard. I think that when it was originally zoned that, or licensed that, or whatever the term is, it was with the intent of it being a small country, kind of a business that would be supported by the roads that we have. And my concern is the wells, that we currently have 1,700 cars up the street that, you know, they come in damaged. All that stuff is leaching into the ground. The current Foster Auto Parts has got probably 500 cars at least sitting over there rotting, leaching into the ground. And so, sorry, I'm not good at public speaking. So my concern would be, like, what would your intent be coming in?
I'm sorry, you cannot speak
Oh,
to
I
him,
can't.
you can only speak to me.
Oh, okay, all right, so my concern would be, that's okay, what would the intent be for him to come in? Like, would he be cleaning up the property? The buildings have got tires all over the roofs, the floors are filled with sludge, and I know this only because I used to take care of a dog over there, and so I'm familiar with the property. So my concerns would be, would this new business, if he was to be licensed, how would he come in? Would he come in and first clean up the property and then start to establish a business? Or is it just gonna be more junk on top of everything that has been left there? Like, we have trees growing out of cars over there. There's just buses deteriorating. It is a mess. And my concern is, how much can our wells take? Like, it's all fed by underground springs. You know, to me, it's only a matter of time. So that was a concern. And the only other concern is that it is a LLC license, which to me means that there's no real skin in the game. That if something was to go very wrong with the wells or with contamination or something like that, that protects everyone but my house and my property. So those are my concerns.
Thank you, thanks. Yes, could you state your name and address, please?
Carl Secotio, 8 Randall Road. I think that most of you know, I was the building and zoning official for 17 years here. And I've probably been in the neighborhood longer than everyone. And it's not that, we're not against the business, we just want to have it a little more controlled. I got here, like I said, in 74, and our zoning started in 67. The junkyard was here long before that. When I grew up in Cranston, I used to come up here to go to Wilson's when it was Wilson's. And then when I came up here, I got involved with the town, and I had to enforce the laws. And the last few years, it has deteriorated. And since it has shut down, I think a lot of people in general are just using it for their own junkyard, because you drive by, there's tires all along the roadway, which weren't there last year. What we're looking for is just hours of operation, fencing put back up as required under our zoning laws. Number of cars. I know that down the street, they limited it to 500. We all know that doesn't exist. There's thousands there, and I know you're in litigation and you have an executive session. When Wilson had it, we controlled it by the number of cars in the area. The lot was a certain size acreage, only X amount, I don't have the figures in front of me, were cleared for storage cars and no stacking of cars. One car, and you had to maintain the fire lane. I actually had aerial photos of both those junkyards, and that's how I kept tabs on the amount of cars that were there. And we never really had a problem with the number. But I know right now, Foster Auto, I don't believe there's a number set for the amount of cars he can have. And there's like over 16 acres, if I recall, of cleared property. So you can get a lot of cars in 16 acres. So we're just looking to have some kind of restrictions, I guess is the word I'm looking for, so it doesn't blossom into what's down the road, because 2 of those junkyards on the same road would affect all our property value. I admit I'm not in a butter, I'm down the road a quarter of a mile, but I see it every day.
Thank you. Yes, state your name and address, please.
My name is Renee Perrin, and I'm at 43 Mill Road. I'm at a property that is in between both the junkyards. I have several small children, and the traffic is the concern for me. I have several really big trucks that turn around in my driveway that have cars on them. It's used as a turnaround for the junkyard that already exists down the road. So I'm worried about how much more traffic is going to be coming into my area just because of the new junkyard. And with fencing, you know, I'm worried that that's not going to help as much. I got 5 flat tires alone just from the fence that Wright's Auto just put up. And again, it's the well. I know I'm reiterating a lot of the stuff that other people have already said, but that's another concern of mine as well.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes.
Linda Tibbetts, 16 Mill Road, and my concern is traffic on Mill Road, which has a angle, an elbow angle turn over Hemlock Brook. And I just think that if, when licensing is granted, the town council should consider the traffic on the road, the trash that gets kind of on the side of the road, when there are businesses, large businesses. And that should be taken into consideration, as well as the steep slope into Hemlock Brook, which does lead into Bodden Reservoir, and that perhaps vehicles should be away from the steep slope.
Position. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, can I just state one more thing?
Yep.
I believe the bridge that is in that sharp elbow of Mill Road with 4 rights, I believe it has a weight limit. And if by that weight limit, I don't even believe our fire trucks are allowed to go over that weight limit that's put on that bridge. But that also probably means that these massive trucks that come in with many, many crushed cars are probably over that limit as well for that bridge. And that's usually the main route.
Thank you.
If I could just respond, my name's Timothy Kane, I do represent Mr. Wilbur. A couple things, please don't punish my client because of the operation down the street. You do have a procedure for a show cause hearing. If you had problems with his operation of this facility or Mr. Osnansky's before that, you as a licensing board can cite them into town and take action against the license. So whatever you do tonight isn't a final word on anything. You can always bring someone back in. There are grandfather rights out there with regard to that property. I think that junkyard was there probably, as Mr. Secoshio said before, you know, most of those houses, most of those houses were there. My client plans to run it in compliance with all state and DEM regulations. Any restrictions that you intend to, I think you have to really be careful exercising discretion and putting restrictions on. I would respectfully suggest to you that you do not have unfettered discretion with restrictions, because there are grandfather rights on this property. And if you are going to put some on, we'd like to hear them first so we can respond to them, rather than just have them imposed on us and, you know, us having to seek an avenue for relief. We'd like to work with the town and recognize that my client, there are grandfather rights that go to this property, and the public hearing statute on junkyards is kind of funky. The law rarely requires, and kind of states that you have a public hearing when there's a new location, and a location that doesn't have a license. And implied in that is that you certainly cannot deny a license with all due respect to the neighbors based on objections raised for a facility that's grandfathered in. So, thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask a question? 1 second, please. Thank you so much. Ms. Hawes asked first.
You mentioned the grandfather rights, and I understand all that and everything, but you did not say, and I think maybe now's your opportunity to allay some of these fears and ours. Could you tell us your intent? What he intends to do with the property? How many vehicles he envisions?
I honestly don't think he knows right now, okay? Other than it's a junkyard, it's been a junkyard forever, it runs as a junkyard.
I understand that.
There's no, I don't believe there's a restriction on his license has the number of vehicles.
I wasn't asking that. What I'm asking is he going to be bringing in, is he going to be doing business as a typical junkyard and bringing in a lot of cars immediately? I mean, he must have some plans and goals.
No, he wants to preserve, he owns the property.
I get that.
Okay, so, well, it's a little different than someone coming off the street. He wants to preserve the rights to this property. He doesn't want to give up the junkyard. As far as I know, he has no plans to bring in, you know, a ton of cars or anything like that. I think what he'll be looking to do during the next year is market it to somebody, and that way you'll have a transfer coming in, and that person would have more of a business plan than my client does, and he can tell you. If he does that, you get a crack at it. So he cannot transfer this license without it coming before the
How about what's existing there right now? Does he have any intention of cleaning it up to market it? The tires and whatever else is there, sir?
Well, an immediate plan to do something with it, no. This has been in my family since probably 1985. And when it was purchased from Wilson, my uncle actually, who I worked with closely, they had an environmental study done because at the time they did finance it. There were some things that they needed cleaned up, but they weren't major at all with the findings. I have all this information with me just for reference. But so over a period of time, we would allow, now Joe Osmansky is also related to me, and we had Joe in there as a business. He paid a fee to be there, but he paid it to myself, the owner, Coastal Atlantic LLC, myself, and my cousin, who was Vin Fiore, who was the owner of the property for a period of time, 1985. Subsequent to that, probably 15 years ago, Coastal Atlantic took title to it. And then I helped manage the property even when my uncle had it and kept doing that. So when there was any issues such as DEM might come down, do an inspection, have some concerns about some staining that may have been on the ground from the operations. I've never been involved in the operations, even though I am familiar with the operations. I don't desire to be hands-on. That's what Joe was doing up there. So when there was some staining, that's when I would come in because I'm familiar with the environmental work that needs to be done. I've been around it in construction and that side of it most of my life, and around petroleum products and sales of those things. So I would manage all of that with any inspector that came out there, satisfy them, give them the reports, And though there's never been an issue up there or any liens recorded. Years ago, when you go back through the inspections, I heard crazy stories, not to waste a lot of time, but like the tire fire they had up there, I guess one time when it was a town fair going on. But I ended up cleaning the results of all of those things. I've got records that I would send into solid waste management where we would constantly, voluntarily, we did this. We weren't forced to do this. We took out, let's say we took out 2,000-3,000 tires a month, kept getting rid of them over a couple of years period of time, and those reports constantly were set in. Until the point where they just didn't respond anymore, we kept getting rid of them as a process. Then we cleaned the soil. We also did replantings down by the, and reseeded to a vegetation plan that was asked to be implemented by Wetlands DEM, and with their inspections that were going on. We removed a lot of old vehicles, sent construction equipment up there to take out certain things that even the scrap procedures that they use in the salvage yard normally, well, we weren't able to do. There was a lot of debris that was down there. I pulled out wheels that had wooden spokes on them, to tell you how old some of the vehicles were down there. And they were the ones that were closest to the riverbank. So we would constantly pull out what we could. So what you see up there now is a lot less than what's been up there. I'm sure there's been up towards 2,300 cars, and even when my uncle had it. So probably now, I think I heard somebody mention 500 to 600. That's probably accurate what's sitting up there now. From an asset point of view, the fact that it has a license on the property is an asset to it. There's hasn't been much activity since Joe doesn't spend a bunch of time up there, so I had the conversation with him that, you know, he doesn't need to be up there anymore. So now I want to keep this going. I need a person to have a license in it, and who better than me? I'm not going to keep running to Joe and renewing the license on an annual basis because it's not practical. I live in this, I plan on living in this town. I own all the property in this town. And I understand every concern that I heard here tonight voiced. And if I lived on that road, and if I had young children, I would have the same concerns. But there's only so much you're going to be able to do about that, and I'm willing to cooperate with that. And I think a big cooperation of it right now is the fact that it's not very active at all. Any activity that occurs up there is only going to be an improvement if I'm involved in it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I was just, are you, it sounds to me like you're not planning on starting up some new operation or expanding this business or anything. Are you just preserving the license?
Yes.
Kind of like what Danny's is doing. They don't want to lose that license, so you're renewing it, not necessarily that you're going to start up a whole
Yes,
new
to be honest
business or
with you,
expand it.
I've also had conversations with Providence Water Supply Board about the property. I'm open to suggestions. However, I can't give the farm away either.
Right. Okay.
So, if I may for a second, I'll agree with Tim that it's a grandfathered license. I think the council has the right to put reasonable stipulations on the property. I mean, the council has a duty to everyone that lives in town, no particular person and no particular business. And one thing, obviously, there's a little disconnect sometimes, and there's an old thing in the law about coming to the nuisance. And it's one thing if this is going to be a brand new junkyard around all these homes. That's a situation that's much different because you people are all there. You didn't anticipate being around something like that. But if the homes, you bought your homes or moved into your homes since the junkyard was there, that's an existing business. The town council's, duty is, and they can't deny the license. What they can do is put stipulations on it to try to balance your rights against his landowner rights. And if that's maybe a fence, if that's maybe cleaning up the front of the property, it would be up to the police maybe to go out there a little bit more and, you know, if people are turning around in your driveway, you know, prevent that, prevent speeders and things of that nature, but, they're not here, you know, they're not here to, and they cannot, deny, the license to this gentleman here. They can only try to work with him to prevent litigation, against the town and, Mr. Kane's client, and try to do something that's reasonable for all sides. So that's what has to be done tonight. I mean, if you're taking me at his word, seems to be genuine and credible as to what he wants to do, so, but the council has the ability, they're like, you know, the gatekeeper, they're like the babysitter of everyone in town, so they have the right to go to court just like he does, and, you know, so that's kind of what you guys can do, is to put stipulations tonight, if you wish to do what are reasonable, for him to follow.
I don't know that I'd be able to even suggest any stipulations without seeing or knowing the property unless Tim has some suggestions. I wouldn't even know where to start.
I know the property, I've driven by several times, and there are trees growing in the car, coming out of the cars. I know that there are quite a few tires. I will state that Mr. Bishop, who was our building and zoning official, did go out and speak. I'm not sure if it was you, Mr. Wilbur, or not, but he did go out and speak and said that, you know, there needed to be some changes made, and that you were compliant with what he had asked you to do for some of those changes. I do know that there are tires all over the place. I've stopped, I've walked around the property, not within the property, but outside the property, looking at what there is. Mr. Bishop did say that it's a grandfathered use, so we need to grant the license, but we may want to limit the number of cars and screening for the front view. So that might be something that we have. You say that you think you have 500 to 600 cars in there?
Mm-hmm, yes.
I thought it might be a little bit more, but I'm not good.
It could be.
I'm not good at that type of thing. So I know that we have with the other property down the piece from you, a stipulation that there can be no more than 500 cars. Is that something that we can institute tonight?
Well, there's nothing, I mean, that would have to be an agreement with the landowner.
That's one thing we would object to, because I think that goes towards grandfather rights. I think that goes to, screening is one thing, removing tires, cutting trees. If you found that you had like a real nuisance down there, you may be able to have a show cause hearing and talk about the number of cars based on traffic, but we would, with all due respect to the council, you know.
Well, Mr. Wilbur just stated that he thought there were 500 to 600 cars there, so if we limit it to 500.
I could come in there, and not that I'm a junkyard, and I could run 1,000 cars, and I could line them up straight, and I could have the cleanest operation in the world with a row of arborvitaes in front of it, or 1,500. And they have, you know, we have records going way back where there were way more cars than 500, and I would respectfully suggest that now you're impinging more on grandfather rights. I think rights have a restriction, all right? And then
I will lead towards our council and
yeah,
ask him.
I think two things. I think that, first of all, you look at the safety features of like the public safety aspect of it. Fire departments, can the fire department get in there safely? That's number one.
The fire marshal did speak to me, Aaron Mossman did speak about the fact that it is, I guess there aren't pathways where a vehicle could get in, a fire truck could get into that if there is a fire. Is that something that you're working on right now?
No, actually, I didn't meet with Brett Bishop. Who I met with was your zoning enforcement officer.
Mark Horner.
And he asked me to do a number of things, which I did immediately.
Yes.
And as far as the fire goes, he mentioned that he needed a key to be able to get in there. So
And there was
I
no
gave him
problem
a key.
with the aisles being wide enough?
No. Well, they didn't bring any of that up, but I know you can drive in there, you can drive around.
So
I'm looking at the Google Earth right now, I don't know how old it is, but unlike the one down the street, there's plenty of room to pull in around these.
Thank you.
So, you know, as far as right, so there's nothing under the grandfather license about number of cars. So that would be a battle in court if it got out of hand, right? You just can't put 20,000 cars. There'll be a reasonableness, as Tim and I know, in the courtroom as to how many vehicles you can have safely there for the, so number one, the town has to look at it from a safety perspective, can fire trucks get into the premises? So that would be something that the fire marshal would come in and make sure that's appropriate, because that's a safety issue for the town. I think you have to take their word on it right now. Now, if they go decide to sell the license, well, that's when the council then can start putting restrictions on it, because now the grandfather part of the license is gone if he's gonna sell the property or sell the license.
So at this time, some of the concerns that were brought up was.
He's willing to, just for the record, I think my client is willing to, after your fire marshal goes out there, he would be willing to comply with the request of the fire marshal, has to separation of fire access.
As I stated previously, he was very compliant. Mr. Bishop noted that.
Thank you.
Okay. But for instance, could we state that we wanted screening?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can, I think if that's something that is reasonable to screen it off for the other landowners in case someone does want to try to sell a home and, you know, it looks like there's, you know, all these cars right down the road, then I think that's something reasonable that the town council can ask for as a stipulation, right?
As far as the tires, right?
Yeah, try to do something with the tires that are out near the road, right?
Right.
Move them
So
back
that-
or just push them back or do something with them, so
Yeah.
they're not out there like that.
Can we address the hours of operation?
I think you can reasonably address hours of operation. I mean, obviously you don't want night times, you know, maybe you don't, you know, maybe you want it, like during the day.
State law, I believe, says no Saturdays and Sundays.
Right, yeah. So what if you
So
want it
it's
like?
Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday.
Monday
Wait,
through
wait,
Friday?
I think it's no Sunday. I don't know.
Yes,
about
it's no Sunday, I apologize.
Yes.
I
I was
apologize.
gonna say Saturday seems
So,
to be.
I think, you know, the issue is, and this goes on in all these rural communities with these junkyards. This is not unique to Forster, it's unique to everywhere out here. They were here before most of the people were in the towns. And you don't have, because they're grandfathered in, you have to be careful about what you can request of them or demand of them, because you're gonna be in the courtroom. And-
Well, that's why I'm asking you.
Right, so I think you have to be, we have to work together on this, and then obviously as your building officials or zoning officials go out there, if they see issues that are cropping up, then they gotta go and talk about it, and if not, then we end up like Wright's Auto.
So we can put screening is.
Yeah, I think that's a
We can
reasonable
say
suggestion.
Monday through Saturday only, and I'm just throwing out time, don't jump, 8 to 5, 8 to 5:30, is that, or is it 7 to 5:30? or-
7.
They're up early, those people in that business are up.
7 to,
Before lawyers do, you know.
Yeah.
you know,
That's right. I think 7's fair. I mean, I mean, unfortunately, people in the business of those or construction, those guys are up early because they gotta get moving.
so 7 to 5,
7 to 6 in the summer, I mean, it's late till 9 o'clock.
we're talking about the fencing, the number of cars, the fire, the traffic. I know you can't do anything about the traffic, but asking your clients or whoever's bringing in not to be turning around in private driveways. I mean, we've got young children. It would be a shame, and I'm sure you would agree with that. Could we ask that you request from your drivers that they not turn around in private driveways?
Absolutely.
How about the bridge? The concern about the
That's
bridge?
that's the police. I mean,
I
you gotta
don't
be
know.
out there.
Do you know what the weight is, Sergeant Tyler, do you know?
And they don't probably have any to weigh the weight in this town, do you? No, you can't out there and
They
enforce
don't have
that.
it at the state. I haven't heard anything about that being restricted.
Never,
It's
I
not-
never have. There's a new
It's- well,
sign
it's
up.
not
posted.
They posted a new sign up.
The state came around,
Oh,
put
they
in
did?
sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, the state does that stuff, but then they don't follow up with anything to enforce it, so that's, you know, that's the genius of some people living in this state. Historic, but yeah, you can't put those signs up, it has no way to enforce it. These guys can't enforce that because they don't know, we can't guess the weights of trucks.
I will add, a lot of times people think that the trucks weigh a lot more than they actually do, and they don't. Especially something like hauling cars that pretty much stripped down, that they're not as heavy as you think, they're more bulky than weight. A triaxle will run 80,000 pounds, and that's not even a big truck because it's a solid material they're hauling. God, the trucks that run those cars are not as heavy as you think.
You probably have a dump truck full of dirt, could be
It's
heavier.
very heavy, yes.
Heavier those car carriers.
And the trash on the side of the road, that's there, there's tires, et cetera, those will be removed.
Yeah, I think those are actually just,
People probably just saying, oh, look, a junkyard, let's throw them here.
well, that could be, I'm not alleging that, but I think they're just in plain sight more than anything.
So if you put
If they're
the
in the street,
fencing
yeah,
up-
they'll be, I'll have it taken care of. I don't think that was the case,
Okay, so
or
you
is the
put the
case,
screen
but
up that.
I think it's in some spots that you can see it, and they shouldn't be out there.
How about the positioning of vehicles, as far as it going down into Hemlock? Is that something that we can?
Well, I mean, that's kind of a, I think that's kind of a DEM
DEM
issue.
issue.
That's not a, that's a little bit out of,
Okay.
I mean, you know, I'm sure some.
I'm just trying to address
DEM.
things that were brought
Right,
up by
yeah.
the people here.
And just for your knowledge too, I just mentioned that with regards to the tires, that quite a while ago, again, I'm talking probably 15, 20 years, I'm sure it was at least 20 years ago, that we agreed with solid waste for the sake of the tires, that, and again, this was not because there was some enforcement going on or threat to lien or violation, but it was just good business practice when we took the property over, that we got on a regiment to remove tires. So now it became a point where, so how many tires are you gonna leave on the property? Because it's, you got cars, you got tires.
Mhm.
So it came down to being the 4 that are on the car, plus another 4, because a lot of times they get utilized to hold the car up underneath the existing car. So that when they're worked on or stripped or whatever the case may be, it's supported,
Mhm.
and they've used them. I think that's what the record shows. I'd have to double check to make sure that's the number.
One of the other things that were mentioned tonight is stacking cars on top of cars. Is there any regulations against that? Or-
That would be something you have to stipulate to, that goes on pretty much everywhere at these junkyards.
Yeah, I don't know if any of that's going on up there. There is a lot of land, it's 34 acres, I believe. Not that the whole thing is covered with automobiles.
No, I thought it was 16 acres.
34 is a whole lot.
Oh, okay.
Roughly 16 cleared, if I recall, but they could have opened it up since then.
Mrs. Ryder?
I just wanted to say, if I remember correctly, Wrights did not always have restrictions. And the town council was able to restrict the number of cars, the fact that there was supposed to be a vegetative buffer, although they planted white pines, so that kind of.
That was in 2004.
Right, and that had been a junkyard for a long, 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 long time.
Well, you could have, I mean, it could have changed ownership, you could have got an agreement with the owner. Right now, they're grandfathered in, so the only we can do is try to agree with them.
I believe the 500 cars came, it had something to do with its proximity to the, well, the fact that it's in the watershed.
So it might have been DEM.
That's not the town, that's DEM's
Right.
issue.
But still, it was done, and it had to be brought up.
Thank you. Yes, Mrs. Tibbetts.
Yeah, now regarding light pollution and noise pollution, that might, I don't know if the town ordinances or
We
not.
don't have that for noise.
And we don't have a, like, downlight only, light
Okay.
pollution. I don't know if you would like to consider a large area like that and how that would affect night sky and light pollution if it were ever lit. Like a sales yard or something like that, just as a concern, and also noise pollution.
Well, the hours of operation are 7 to 6.
Yeah, but there's certain, it depends on what's being done, like crushing cars, what's happening. And the other thing is, even if it's, something is grandfathered in, if DEM regulations have changed since the time it was grandfathered in, I would presume that the business, even though it's grandfathered in, would have to abide by the most current DEM regulations, or is that not?
That's DEM, that's got nothing to do with us.
I mean,
But no,
yeah,
but
the
that
town-
means that
right,
would be
exactly.
updated,
I mean,
right?
the town could request DEM to go out and look at the property
Yeah.
to see if there's any violations, and then that would be a state, you know,
Thank you.
a state issue. So DEM can, I mean, they can request, the building official can request DEM to go out, if they, you know, if they do go out. I think, you know, I don't know what Tim's opinion is, but my opinion is DEM is kind of lightened up with this latest state administration as the governor. I mean, a lot more things are going on now that were never allowed previously, so they're a little bit more pro-business, so my opinion is that, you know, they don't enforce stuff like they might have used to, and everyone used to be, those 3 letters would scare people, DEM. And I don't see it as much now as it used to be, but that's just my personal opinion. So, but the council certainly, you're right, they can notify DEM to go out and at least do a, you know, a walk on the premises to see if there's any violations.
Denise, excuse me.
Yes.
I can shed some light on all that. When Mr. Wilson was selling it to Mr. Fiore, I was heavily involved in that, because there were all rumors of things being buried down in the back along the river. They went in there actually with backhoes and dug stuff up and checked all the soils. Everything came back clean, which surprised a lot of people. And when Mr. Fiore took over, he ran a great operation. I didn't know he was your uncle.
Yeah.
And I had the Providence Water Supply Board monitoring the Hemlock Brook all the time. And if you look at Hemlock Bridge, there's a monitoring station put up there. And they're always there, the government checking, taking water samples. So they are on top of it. And right now, I'm kind of surprised at the Providence Water Supply Board in here, because they just purchased the property directly across the street on the east side from Brian Coppin. They purchased 35 acres, and the river goes right through their property. But as far as the environmental, back in '85, when Mr. Fiore bought it, that thing was clean as a whistle. There was no problem. And I have to disagree about the grandfather clause. Even though it was there before zoning, it states that junkyards are supposed to have screening, natural screening with trees, fencing, things like that. And they were enforced when zoning came in '67. They all planted trees, they put up fencing. So even though the grandfather right is there, there were restrictions put on them back there in '67 when zoning came in.
Trees, screening is something my client is willing to do. He's proven to be a responsible property owner. I think the number of cars at this stage gets into zoning rights. And his uncle could run a very clean business with more than 500 cars. It depends how you run it. I don't think it's necessarily the number of cars, it's how you run the business. Mr. Osmowski got a little tired as the years went by, so he didn't put that, you know, effort. Yeah, that effort into it. Someone comes along and they're more aggressive, they'll put the effort into it because they're gonna make money, they're gonna have more money to put into the business. So screening, yes, removal of trash and things that are visible from the street, hours of operation, all things that Mr. Wilbur is willing to abide by. If there's problems in the future with the number of cars, you can certainly drag any license holder in for a show cause hearing. So you always have that remedy. But right now, we don't want to be limited because we think we have grandfathered zoning rights as to the intensity of the use, and the use goes to the number of cars. And if that becomes a problem in the future, you have, as a town council, recourse. So that's
Thank you.
kind of our position. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm just a little confused about his intent. So, I understand that his family has, you know, owned the property, run the business and whatnot, but I thought that I heard that the intent was to be able to sell it to somebody else to come in and run a junkyard there.
And then he'd
So
sell the license, am I correct?
Right,
He'd sell the
and-
license, and then there would
Then we
be
can
more
make
restrictions.
regulations
It's
on
not grandfathered. So
Okay.
then at that point, we can say you can only have X number of vehicles.
Okay, so, you know, so prior to that, that's what I think I heard him say, was that he was not planning on running a junkyard, that you didn't have an interest in that. Also, I heard him say that he was open to suggestions for the property, and not to open up a can of worms. My suggestion to Mr. Wilbur for the property as a direct property owner across the street would be, I would much rather live across the street from a solar farm than a junkyard. So seriously, talk to some solar farms.
Actually, I tried to put solar there.
I would be okay if all your neighbors.
We did, we started that process.
We would be okay with that.
Can't do it.
That's too
That's too far. It would have been going in that direction.
I just don't want to leave the impression that he's not going to do anything out there. He, you know,
He's gonna run a business.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gonna run a business, but he's looking to flip it.
Correct.
So as part of the motion, you're gonna, there'll be an agreement as to screening, and there'll be agreement as to cleaning up the front of the property and hours of operation.
Correct.
So that would be something you'll instruct, I guess, your building or zoning official to get that into a memorialized in writing, and then, part of your motion, you'll direct your zoning or building official to go out there and to get that taken care of, or if Tim in my office wants to do it, whatever's easier, that's what you want. So as part of your motion to grant, that's the agreement that's been made tonight.
Could I ask one more question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
And I don't know if this is the time, and
Yes,
sorry
ma'am.
to compare, but Wrights is able to run a lot of their business in the road. They load the crushed cars. I've had, beat Renee, I had 2 flats in 1 week. You know, the metal chunks and what, is that something, this is directly across the street from my house. I have no safe way to go anymore. You know, like, I don't know if that's business or town.
to be open.
Yeah. I mean,
But
That's-
you know what I'm saying, like,
Right.
you come up in one of
I
the.
think you got two different,
But I mean, who do you talk to
Owners.
about the business not being allowed to run in the road? Any one of us can tell you, come up and the trucks are there, you've gotta wait for them to.
yeah.
To
Wrights
close
is,
the
Wrights is
trailer
just,
door.
you know, that's litigation, and that's gonna go on. You have people like that and that
But
don't play by the rules, right? So,
I think her
But-
question is,
but-
can we stipulate that there's no,
I still live there, whether they follow the rules or not, I live there.
she's talking about this one.
Right,
This one
right.
here, can we make any stipulation saying that they cannot do?
yeah, I mean, I think, Tim, I don't think you guys, I mean, I think that's a fair stipulation, right? You don't have to do business.
We have plenty of room on the property for other
So
businesses.
you can put that in as well.
You know, like, and I
No
don't mean to
working
be
on the
here
road.
again.
Right, so
That's
we'll put
fine.
that in as well.
Put that in.
Okay. Yes, Mrs. Ryder.
I'm just wondering, if you don't restrict how many cars, how is that going to impact any other junkyard litigation that you're involved in? Because they're going to point and say they don't have any kind of a
Well,
limit.
because it's
Right,
different.
it's not grandfathered in.
It's different. I mean, Wrights has an amount, and they're over it. So whatever these guys have had nothing to do with Wrights. Wrights has a restriction that they violated.
But
That's
going
different.
forward, I mean, it just seems to weaken your case.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we'll see what the court says. But
That's
I'm
nice
not gonna litigate this. I do that all day long. I'm tired. I'm not gonna litigate.
They're not going to sit here and do it, come on. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. I'm closing the public hearing. I will go to a motion. I hope somebody wrote down. If you didn't, I did.
I was writing some things down, you can
Okay.
add.
Yep.
Okay. So this is a secondhand license. Okay, I move to grant the secondhand license for Foster Auto Parts.
The applicant.
Yeah, the applicant, William J. Wilbur / Coastal Atlantic, with the following, I don't know if I want to call them restrictions or provisions.
Stipulations.
Stipulations, okay. The hours of operation will be Monday through Saturday, 7 AM to 6 PM. Is that okay? That there be some type of screening or fencing along the road, Mill Road.
Natural. Because that black stuff is crap. Sorry.
That the,
Screening.
okay, screening. That the front of the property will be cleaned up in accordance with the suggestions of the building and zoning official and in agreement with Mr. Wilbur. And that there will be no working on vehicles or unloading of vehicles in the roadway. I think that's it.
Second.
Discussion.
We already had a discussion.
Well, I'm asking our council if there's any comment. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good luck, Mr. Wilbur.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Everybody, yes, thank you for coming. Now I will open the hearing for the Old Boat House. Applicant Nick Carano.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, I'm
was just waiting for everybody to be quiet.
Good.
I want to come over the floor and shoot it straight to the center.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on, I will open up the public hearing for Old Volks House, applicant Nick Garano. Is that the name? Guarino, sorry, for secondhand license at 10A Danielson Pike Foster. Do you have anything to say?
So the only reason I'm doing this is I do restorations and I've acquired quite a bit of parts. As you know, I have the permit for my storage container on the property that's full of parts I've acquired in the past 20, 25 years. So when I do a restoration and parts are no longer available, I don't want to get in trouble for having the part and selling it to a customer. That's the only reason I'm applying for the secondhand license. It's not that I'm going to go buy cars to dismantle on the property or I'm going to sell parts to the public. As you know, I brought a lot of customers into the town. I've only got 3 people that are customers in the town. So I don't rely on the town for my business to conduct work, but I do rely on myself and my knowledge of parts that I know are hard to come by or not available anymore. And I know to save those parts, so that way when I restore another car, we can save the precious metal of VW and Audis and keep them on the road. That's the only reason I'm actually, I don't even know if I need this license for that. I've got my permit to make sales at retail. If that's my stock, I can still sell it without this permit, but I'm just trying to be, same reason I have garage keepers, shopkeepers, mortgage insurance. In case anything happens, I'm covered, I'm licensed. That's the only reason I'm doing this. I'm not trying to start any headaches, I'm not trying to start any controversy, although I'm accused of that commonly. And, you know, like Trump, I'll embrace it and keep moving forward. Because nothing's gonna stop me from being successful. I don't care who you are. So that's me being blunt and right up front with everybody, and that's my honest opinion and truth. I know I have quite a bit of followers who definitely love me, and I'm sure they will speak up against me. But that, I embrace that. You know you're doing your job right when you have people that don't like you. So, thank you for the encouragement.
Okay.
Does he need, can we ask, does he need that license?
He may not need it, but I mean, it's probably the better course is to get it, so in case it then he can be, you know.
So he
regular-
harasses,
Right.
can harass you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Got it.
I'm in,
Applause
Mrs.
is right.
Ryder. I'm going to ask for the people who live near him first, thank you. Is there anybody who would like to speak in favor? Is there anybody who would like to speak in opposition to? Yes? Decide who's going to speak first.
Pamela Fontaine, 8 Daniels Pike Foster. First of all, I'd like to know how Mr. Garrido got grandfathered in. If he bought that property, he's, in my opinion, from what I just heard here, it's not a family business, it's not anything else. It was a electrical supply business prior to him coming into town, and that was many years ago. So I'm not sure how that got grandfathered in.
1976, when I pulled the records, Wilson's owned that and had an auto repair shop, and it was also licensed at a dealership, and that dealership license is available, and I can go get that. I have enough square footage, I have enough signage, and I can start buying cars and fill up the lot with a lot of cars for sale. But as you all know, I'm sure you've had people come by. Nothing on my property is for sale. I don't care how much money you have, it's all for repair. I don't plan on getting or starting to sell cars. That's just, I'm not involved with that. It's not worth my time. That gets me away from doing what I love.
That is not an answer to my question, it's an answer to the council, it's a question to the council and the solicitor, and possibly the prior building inspector. That being said,
Excuse me one second,
Let me answer the question.
when Nick came in, Red did all the background checks, pulled everything, said he was grandfathered. That building was already a shop, so he could continue to have a repair shop without having to go through zoning.
despite the fact that it had been closed for years and there was another business in there prior, I will question the council then, and the zoning board, previous zoning board, when we first moved into town, we bought a piece of property that had a fruit and vegetable stand on it many years ago. We had to go before the zoning board to get our license, to be able to reopen that. So I think you have contradiction in your ordinances, your planning board, your zoning board. That being said, part of the planning board meeting on August 1st, Mr. Garano says, and I quote, "I will not be ashamed for running my business. I will not fence in my property. I will not apologize that my place looks like a used car dealership. It is very unique." That also being said, there was also a post on the Foster Gazette within the last week from someone that does not live in town that posted basically comparing the people in Foster to some kind of movie from Maine and quote, and I apologize to anybody if this offends you, but the quote was, "Fuck them." Mr. Garino's response was, "That's my intentions." If that's your intention of having businesses in this town, I have a hard time with that. The second thing is the operation, the hours of operations, I do not know. We've come into our driveway at 12 o'clock at night, 11:30, quarter to 11, all the lights are on. You have no stipulation of hours. You just made this gentleman do hours and put up a fencing or whatever. The number of cars that are out there. What's happening to, I understood that it was supposed to be a restoration place. Now I hear that it's a repair place. What's going on with all the chemicals? What's going on? You have a brook, natural brook behind there that also runs into the Barton Reservoir. There are many concerns with the traffic that goes in and out of there at all hours of the night, speeding in, speeding out. It's not a safe situation. You're always talking, the planning board's always talking, the town council is talking about putting businesses in, wanting more businesses in town. This is the first business that you see as you come over Route 6 from Situate. It is deplorable. It is. I don't care who's sitting up there, it is deplorable. If you want more junkyards in the town, that's what you're going to get. You'll get another junkyard, you'll get another, you have Route 6 with nothing but other used car lots. You've got litigation on one of them tonight. You need to be more proactive to get good businesses into town with people that are going to be responsible, that are not going to have this dig their heels into the ground and say, forget about everybody, I'm going to do it my way. We have that situation on 94. You just went through litigation and you made a deal. What is going on? You need to be proactive for the businesses that are here and to also get good businesses in here. You need to probably find a space other than Route 6 to bring businesses in. If you want antique shops, you want to be like Situate, you want to be like Gloucester. You go through Gloucester at any time, it's busy. Situate is busy with 4 or 5 businesses down there. Open a plaza. You had businesses here before.
We're discussing this option right here, not what future business would be.
This is what you're
Thank you.
asking for people. If that's the kind of businesses that you want in this town, continue what you're doing.
Thank you.
I'm also concerned that we don't have police patrol on Route 6 for these businesses.
They turn around on my
Thank you.
property, the
Excuse
reason I
me.
keep it
Excuse
open is
me.
so you
Sorry.
can
Don't-
stay
don't-
open and turn the school bus around safely.
You can't
I
comment, you can
apologize.
only
I'm
direct it
passionate
to the
and
council.
I spoke up.
Did you have a comment?
I did.
Can you
Bob
state your name
Fontaine,
and
8
accent?
Davison Pike. My wife obviously has been reading my notes. But I have a question about being grandfathered in as well. Now, being a little older than most of you there, I was there when
Can I
the...
just stop for 1 second? That's not what the license is
No,
tonight.
it's not. I
Tonight
mean,
is the second hand.
Right, I mean,
It's-
and from what the town clerk is saying, they've researched that, and he's grandfathered, he has the right to a license, so that's not what we're here for tonight.
Tonight is for his second-hand license, not his grandfather license.
Well, they all go hand in hand.
Well, we're not, what,
That
you say-
tonight is for,
Okay,
the public
guys,
hearing
I'll
was for
finish
second.
what
Thank
I
you.
got to say, okay? Where this business is located is on a downhill curve. It's hazardous. It's hazardous as all hell. When it rains, the water runs across that road and it freezes. bad spot to have a business. Part of the reason why the gas station that was originally built there closed. Okay? Hours of operation, my wife managed to bring that up. I don't know what the hours of operation are supposed to be. I checked at the town hall and I was told, they don't know.
But again, we're talking about a secondhand license, not the current business.
Does
that's
that
there.
not affect?
We're here talking about the secondhand license, not the current business that is there.
Okay, then how about any contaminants going in the ground? Does that involve any of this?
That's DEM, and it's not.
So that
secondhand.
isn't part of it?
What his secondhand license is that he's looking to sell pots.
Okay, on the
That's-
second-hand pots that would be sold, would we have to do any body work on those? Can
No
somebody
body
answer
work.
that?
I don't touch body work, no paint. I expressed that and wrote it in my business plan that was submitted originally.
Thank you.
Okay. The next thing, again, was brought up that there's a stream in back of the building. That
That's-
stream has been there as long as I have.
Again, and I'm being advised that that's DEM.
Those questions you can bring to DEM, if they feel that they need to go out there, I think you just call DEM and you explain to them what's going on, they need to go out. Towns and cities have no control over wetlands, that's a DEM regulation on that stuff.
Okay.
Cite them, those.
Is this application, does it involve any property upkeep at all? Or does that not appear to be part of this discussion?
That's secondhand sale.
It's a secondhand
That's-
sale.
That's, I mean. like-
Tonight's license is just for secondhand sale.
Right, so either you grant it or you deny it, but at that point, then you start sending out your zoning official to see if it's violating anything by it's too messy or it's junk out front, things like that, but that's something that,
That's a separate issue
Issue.
than what tonight's license is for. Tonight's license is for the secondhand issue. Not ignoring what you're saying, but it's not the time to be doing
and
it.
right, the council, you can instruct the zoning official or building official to go out and cite him if something is not, up to what the town requirements are.
He's come by and checked on the property and told me that I was okay. I had to move one car away from one of the entrances to
Yes.
make it more open so that the school bus could turn around safer. And I welcome that because that's our youth, that's our future.
Can I
Is
make
it
one more
to the,
statement?
make it, I'm not sure it's gonna, but go ahead.
Well, listen, we have an officer of the law here that has a patch on his shoulder. That patch is the covered bridge. Years ago, it was so stipulated that this town was green. We were gonna have a green town. Now we've got a used car town. I don't see a used car in this patch.
Thank you.
It won't.
Yes, you had your hand raised first. State your,
Okay.
you don't have to stand,
That's
you
all
can
right.
state your name and.
Not Morgan, 11 Anderson Pike.
Oh,
As it stands now, the business he has is clean, it's quiet, it causes no disturbance anywhere. We have had the most horrible people in that building, including people who grew strange weeds. It's very bad. He's cleaned it up. He's made it look good. I'm comfortable with it mostly because he's cleaned it up. I had to come up here 15 times to get the junk from the last guy that had a place there. I had to get the junk out of here. He's clean, it's tidy, it's quiet, whatever he does, if he gets the license, it's not gonna change. I like it that way.
Thank you. Mrs. Ryder.
I have a question. The secondhand license, does that, I mean, I know he said it was just gonna be for parts, but without having to come before the council again or anything, could that be expanded into used cars?
Well, I can
It
say
already
coming.
has that license,
It-
right?
And I'm reading what Rhett has written here. It says here, additional remarks or stipulations. It says, section 38-193, prohibited uses, automobile, truck, or other vehicle junkyard for sale.
Okay, but I mean sales, because
That was his stipulation.
Cannot
That
sell.
he cannot
Sell.
sell, it says
Doesn't.
prohibited use,
Yes,
Prohibited
I didn't hear
use.
I didn't hear the, used
Automobile,
car
truck,
sales.
or other vehicle junkyard.
It
Well,
doesn't say
how-
they can sell.
Yeah, you can't have a junkyard, but I think
Right.
you said before, and you get the prior zoning inspector here, you said that there was an existing, used car license there
Yeah.
that's available.
It is available.
Stearns all
On
that.
that property.
Stearns, yeah,
So there's-
Stearns.
But that's not a second-hand license, that would be a
Right.
separate license.
Okay, so that is a separate license.
Right.
My
Right.
concern
Right.
is, and again, it depends on where you want this town to go. Do you want, I mean, we have X number of used cars, it's how you want to market the town.
He's
I mean,
looking for
right
a
now-
second-hand license now. He's not looking for a
I
sale.
understand that, but apparently it can morph into something,
Well,
unless
that
you can
wasn't-
restrict it to parts.
That
second-hand
wasn't-
license comes-
No, it can't, you have to come, if he wants
For
to
a
sell
separate
used
license.
cars, that's a separate license.
Yes, he
From
comes
what I'm
from us.
understanding,
It's a
from what
dealer's
you're saying.
license,
Right.
used car dealer's
It's a
license.
dealer's license, and that also goes through the state, am I correct?
That's 100%.
So that
Well,
goes through
is-
the state.
When you start talking about parts, are you going to have piles of parts? I mean, what kind of, are they gonna be undercover? Are they gonna be under a building or just a tarp or one of
He
those
has
plastic things?
He has a storage container that he stores his parts in.
Okay, well, that's one. Will there be multiple storage containers?
The town ordinance only allows one temporary storage unit, so that would not be the case because they obviously can't put another storage container there.
I just think that you have to be very careful. It is the entrance to the town.
Thank you.
And I would encourage the town to continue investigating a blight ordinance, or if you want
Thank
to
you,
do
we're
it, call
talking
it a blight,
secondhand. Thank you,
then
Mrs. Ryder.
cleaning up Route 6
Sorry, we're not gonna
ordinance.
stop right now.
It all, it's all together.
Thank you, but this is a second-hand license right now, it's not a blood ordinance.
I didn't say it was.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm going to,
I was,
oh, I thought you were standing to stretch, I'm sorry.
I just want to shed a little light on the property. I know it's for a second-hand license. Once again, I was heavily involved in that piece of property. Mr. Wilson, who is like my nemesis, moved up there. It was a pottery place first. I actually built the second floor back in the early 70s. It was a pottery place, then it kept changing hands. When it went to a repair shop, it went in front of the zoning board, and it was limited to 25 cars on the lot. I remember I stopped in, I'm a Volkswagen lover, I still have a '69 Beetle. You know, I was kind of glad we had a Volkswagen mechanic in town, and I stopped in. And he was not aware of the limitation of cars in the lot. And no one in town hall was. So yesterday, when I brought it up, I said, you have to check the records. That's all I want to state, but outside of that, you know, it keeps changing hands, and he's here for the second-hand license, and you gotta go by basically what he's telling you he's gonna do. You know that.
Thank you, and I'm sorry, I thought you were stretching.
I
didn't
was,
know
I
you
was
were-
doing both.
Okay. Okay. Now I will close the public hearing, and I'll come to the council. Does the council have any questions? Any concerns at this time? I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to grant the second-hand license for Nick Garino, doing business as Old Folks House.
Second. For a second-hand license?
I said that.
Okay, thank you. And it's been seconded? Any further discussion?
I agree with Pat. I think it looks much better up there than it did before. It's neat, it's orderly, it was a mess before, it's cleaned up. I think it's better than it was before.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Just so you know, I was up there doing something. You guys up there. You already know.
Thank you.
bless you.